So let me ask you a quick question. Does social media feel empty to you these days? Over the past year or so, I've kind of been transitioning to taking a step back from social media. And to be honest, it's been kind of one of the best decisions I've made in quite a long time. There's just something about not being so inundated with all the social media content, with all the polarizing stuff about politics or about the news or whatever's going on in the world. It's freeing. It makes me feel better, and it gives me a lot more time and a lot more bandwidth to do more productive things in my life. For some reason, over the past couple years, social media has been feeling more like an addictive chore more than entertainment or more than even education. I remember back, I think in like 2010 or 2009, when I really first started to use social media, back when like MySpace kind of had a wall and you can poke people, and back when Instagram was just people posting photos and people just living life and maybe putting a cool filter over it, and that was the extent of it. Back in those days, social media seemed interesting. It felt like you can kind of look into people's lives behind the scenes and really just experience their world with them. That's kind of the way I used to see social media, at least. But over the years, social media has kind of become this black hole of content, I'll call it. There's something about it that just kind of doesn't sit well with me. And I think really what it comes down to, at least for me, sort of not super deeply, but semi-deeply thinking about where that feeling's coming from, I think it's because everyone's focusing too hard on creating content and not enough on creating connections and also just documenting their lives. There's something cool back in the day. I can still remember back in like, I think 2016 even, 2015, 2016, where YouTube was full of like vlogs. Like you can open up a vlog and see someone just living their life. There wasn't a lot of editing. There were just people talking about their day, talking about stuff they were afraid of, talking about things they enjoyed, talking about their hobbies. And it was just you experiencing life with people, really feeling like they're your friends almost. You kind of get this parasocial, I guess, relationship with them. But even then, it didn't feel super extreme. Like nowadays, the parasocial relationships feel too extreme, where you have people who are streaming and it feels like they're trying to just do too much almost for the camera to the point where it's still like a fake version of themselves. Back then with the vlogs, it felt like if I saw someone vlogging or if I saw someone talking about their lives or their families or their hobbies or their goals or their dreams, it really felt authentic. It felt like I was actually listening or talking to somebody who was like a close friend. There's something about social media now that's absent, that's missing. And I think kind of when I think about it, I think overall what it comes down to is that everyone's trying too hard to just create content and just monetize their brand or their platform. And few people are actually trying to just document things or just create content for the sake of creating content. Even, I know recently, one of my philosophies that I've been trying to put into practice is to do more of what your child version of yourself it used to enjoy doing without judgment. So I've been taking more time to draw and taking more time to just kind of read comics, just because when I was a kid, that's what I naturally gravitated toward. And it felt like even if people judged me negatively for it, I didn't care. I still wanted to do it because it was just pleasing and enjoyable to me. And over the years, I've kind of felt myself doing things, not because there are things I want to do, but because I think I have to do them. And when I kind of go on social media, all of the content I see feels like people doing things that they feel they have to do, usually for money, rather than things that they want to do or things that are just enjoyable to them. Like when I see someone who just creates art, but I don't see them trying to monetize their art, they're just creating it and sharing it for the sake of the process and the product itself. Or when I see a musician who is super passionate about music and they're talking about music and they're not trying to promote anything, there's no funnel that they're trying to link to, there's no overall business or whatever that comes at the end of you watching that video, there's something inspiring and just nice, pleasant about seeing that. It feels like someone's really taking time to share the things that they love with you, and so you feel more connected to that person. But I would say 99% of the content, and that's an extreme number, but it feels like about 95 to 99% of the content I see online is just people really trying to show off their lives. Like, how do I put this? it just feels phony. It feels fake. I think that's really what it comes down to. Social media feels fake, and I think that's kind of what makes it unappealing, at least to me. But I think that a lot of people are kind of also being fatigued by social media. Like nowadays, if I go on social media, if I go on Instagram, for example, most of the content I see, I'll see women who are trying too hard to get attention through sexual means. They're wearing clothing that they probably wouldn't normally wear if no one cared about giving them attention. They're trying to be over the top in the way that they dance or the way that they talk. You see these like interviews where people are just saying the most outrageous stuff just to be polarizing, just to be controversial. You're seeing way too much politics, way too many political based forms of content. People are also just saying polarizing stuff to piss people off. They're rage baiting, which overall is just a means of increasing engagement to get more money. You see a lot of dudes and a lot of girls too posturing online, pretending that they live this luxury lifestyle when they don't in reality. They're trying to brag about the things that they don't really have or the things that they can't really afford just to impress other people. You just see so much stuff on social media that's ultimately that's ultimately phony and fake and disingenuous and ultimately inauthentic. And I think that's where the fatigue comes from. I remember even years ago, I think inadvertently, I kind of started to see this trend unfold. There were a lot of people who would say things online that they had no real experience in. There'd be people who'd give advice and they had no idea what they were talking about. So of course the advice was bad. You take the advice, I would take the advice, and it would lead to worse outcomes. I know a couple years ago, the red pill space was huge for this. And I would see a lot of people in the red pill space give advice about dating or about women that was completely untrue. And you can tell it didn't come from a place of true experience or true knowledge. It would just come from a place of reading a book and regurgitating the things that were said in that book, or regurgitating the things that someone else had already previously said, which was also incorrect. And a lot of people would follow this advice, and a lot of people would screw up their lives because they followed bad advice. That's one example. But I don't know. Social media to me is a bit strange. And I guess if you're watching this video, my suggestion to you is to probably depart from social media for a bit. I do think that, of course, if you're trying to start a business, then social media is fantastic. I think, of course, depending on the platform, you can certainly target the people that you want to target, the people who you want to see your content. I don't see an issue with making content. Hopefully, if you're watching this, you don't misunderstand my point. I think ultimately what I'm trying to suggest is that there are just too many people online who are trying to fake the things that they enjoy or fake their lifestyles. And it's a bit fatiguing. It's a bit obnoxious, I guess, if I had to use a word. And yeah, I think ultimately, I feel like what a lot of people want deep down is authenticity. And I think social media lacks that authenticity. And I think people are starting to get fatigued by it. But yeah, I'm curious to know, if you're watching this, what you think about the current, the current social media climate. Do you find that it's still as engaging as it used to be years ago? Do you find that it's become boring? Do you find that it's fatiguing? Do you find that it's still entertaining? I'm curious to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below what you think, and hope to see you in the next video. Peace out. Bye.